Guys, how are you? Welcome to another installment of Cereal at Midnight. I'm Heath, and in this episode, we are talking about the ultimate Richard Pryor collection, Uncensored. This is brand new. It's massive. It comes from Time Life. You know we love Time Life here at Cereal at Midnight because of their ability to curate, to license from multiple different sources, and to create these repositories of pop culture history that don't exist outside of these Time Life box sets. What they're able to include and get is staggering. 26 hours, actually over 26 hours of content on 13 DVDs. We're going to get very in-depth into what's included in this. Needless to say, there's a lot of hits. There's also a lot of stuff that just have not been seen before or haven't been seen in decades. And I think this is probably going to be kind of a reverential video too, because Richard Pryor was awe-inspiring and his story is, it's all things, right? It's funny, it's tragedy, he left us way too early, but even from the early days, it was still kind of tragic. Let's jump into it. So we've got three different volumes that make up this collection. Again, totaling over 26 hours of material. So this is volume 1. I'm going to hold this up for you and show it to you, and then I'll flip it around, and you can read that if you so choose, but we are going to go through this item by item. The discs in this collection, there are 6 of them. They're laid out like this. We start with the comedy specials and extras, comedy specials and more, and then we move into some of the other things, some of his other television shows, specials, things like that. Volume 2. There's the front. We'll do the back. And once again, exactly the same thing. We're looking at 6 discs. This is primarily television material. And then the last volume, volume 3, is I Am Richard Pryor. This is the recent, I think it's a 2019 documentary. It's still up on the streaming channels, as I believe it's still up on streaming channels, but this is your way to own it. All right, so there's a booklet included with this. I'm going to lay this out here in a way that is the most visually appealing. Let's do it like that. All right, we have our booklet here. It's really our key to this world, and I can't show you all of this because it is it's uncensored. They mean it when they say uncensored, so it is packed with photos and quotes. It starts with a note from Richard Pryor's widow, Jennifer Lee Pryor, and she is a constant presence throughout this series, this collection, because she has sat down for multiple new interviews to discuss what it was like to live with Richard Pryor. She married him twice. What it was like to live with him, what motivated him, his struggles. She saw them firsthand. I think I can show you that this is something that we're gonna have to talk about. This is the documentary, the film, the short film that was sort of not suppressed, but he was unsatisfied with it, so he sort of had it just went in a vault. All right, so let's go through these one by one. So disc 1 is Richard Pryor Live and Smoking. It's a stand-up special. See, this is it's a noble place for Time Life to start this collection because it's a 1971 special. Really, it's just him standing in front of a very small club. There's like the menu behind him for what they served, the food items and stuff. And he doesn't bomb, but he hasn't figured out what his voice is yet. What we associate with Richard Pryor, he's not there yet. And the audience is not there with him either, because who is this guy, right? And so it's uncomfortable, but he just goes on through, and he ends his set with like a 15-minute monologue of a wino character, like a black wino, and it's not funny. It kind of starts funny, and then it just becomes this tragic monologue of the black experience being delivered by Richard Pryor without laughs. It's almost like I dare you to listen to what I'm trying to say to you, and it's all the pain coming out. Bold place to start your collection of Richard Pryor, with everything we're about to see. So also on that disc is The Legend of Uncle Tom's Fairy Tales. Now this was shot with, it was a short film he was working on. Penelope Spheris, the director of The Decline of Western Civilization 1, 2, 3, Wayne's World, fantastic filmmaker. She sits down for an hour to talk about filming the short itself. And you want drug stories, they're here. You want sex stories, they're here. You want Richard Pryor doing drugs and waving a samurai sword around while Penelope Spheris is editing, that's here. So much interesting information. And they have collected what remains of the film. So alternate takes. No one knows what happened to the finished product. It was shown like just really once or twice. Penelope Spheris only saw it once. Richard Pryor showed it to Bill Cosby. He had Bill Cosby come over. That's an interesting subject in and of itself, is that Richard Pryor was heavily influenced and deeply admired Bill Cosby. And you can see he's not imitating, maybe in some cases he is imitating Bill Cosby, but you can see it for yourself. He's doing Bill Cosby earlier on in his career. So we have the scenes, Penelope Spheris is narrating what survives of it. You can piece the narrative together, and it's very disturbing. As surprise, it's very disturbing. And then there's another interview with Jennifer Lee Pryor talking about living with the man. Disc 2 is where things really kick into what we expect, perhaps, with Live in Concert. That's the famous 1979 concert film. It's the whole disc. Disc 3 is Live on the Sunset Strip. Again, massive, huge comedy special. Disc 4, Richard Pryor Here and Now. Another comedy special. Notice we're doing these chronologically. We had a 71 special, 79, 82, 83. Disc 5 is the Richard Pryor Special, from 1977. And then the 2 episodes of the Richard Pryor Show. There were 4 episodes of a Richard Pryor Show in the 70s. They aired throughout September and then in October. 2 episodes finish out Disc 5. Then Disc 6 is the other episodes of that. The other 2 episodes. That's as I understand it, that's all that exists. Then we start Volume 2. So this is really interesting because it's pop culture. I'm going to use the word preservation because I think it applies here. These are episodes of TV shows that are long since sort of forgotten, and I don't know where these exist other than this disc. So Disc 1 is Richard Pryor's appearances on the Merv Griffin Show. Mid-60s, 1965 and 1966. Young, skinny. I mean, he's in his 20s, right? He's so young, and he is... I tell you what, these talk shows from like Dick Cavett there's Dick Cavett stuff on here too. I always thought Dick Cavett was kind of conversational. Merv Griffin Show, like there's no format whatsoever. Richard Pryor comes out, it's not the whole episode of the Merv Griffin shows. The ones that are here, they have other guests, and when he interacts with those other guests, that's here. But if he's not involved in a segment, that segment isn't here. So, in one of these cases, Sammy Davis Jr. is on the bill. Florence Henderson in 1966. That's 3 years before the Brady Bunch. But it's fascinating. He'll come out and, he sits behind the desk next to Merv Griffin. You've got the couch over here with the people sitting, the chairs, and they have a seat set up behind the desk. He just comes out and he sits next to Merv Griffin. They just sit there and they smoke and they talk, and it's bits and it's non sequiturs. You can tell that there was really no pre-interview stuff done, now in a talk show, and even in some of the later Johnny Carson days. More on that in a minute. They would do pre-interviews. So you got a story you could tell. Do you have something that you could really talk to us about for, we got 7 minutes. This is like a half an hour. No form, no, he does musical comedy. He gets up, he'll do some impersonations, like, here's my Dean Martin, and he does the Dean Martin impression. Just total non sequitur stuff. It's such a bizarre element of television. There were thousands of episodes in the Merv Griffin Show, right? I mean, it went for a long time. Disc 2 on Volume 2 is Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson appearances. Now, those, as far as I can tell, are either complete or mostly complete. They run like 57 minutes to an hour and 3 minutes or so. I think in some cases they've cut I want to make sure maybe all of them, they've cut the musical guest if there was a musical guest. So there's a few minutes that are absent. But I mean, it's like a solid hour of Johnny Carson with Richard Pryor there. Listen to some of these other, Tim Conway, the Mighty Carson art players, Bob Hope. You want Richard Pryor and Bob Hope sitting on the couch next to each other. That's here. Disc 3. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 episodes of Pryor's Place, which was a Saturday morning show with Richard Pryor. Again, this is where context is important, because Jennifer Lee Pryor talks about how he was so influenced by Bill Cosby, and he saw how Bill Cosby came out of the clubs and he became, a mainstream star, and then he expanded his brand into family programming, Cosby Show. Of course, we're ignoring the massive implications of what Cosby would later become, right? And how maybe they weren't just... It's interesting, right? How we can see how some people achieve certain successes. So, Richard Pryor has a Saturday morning children's show. And there are 13 episodes in total, I believe, and there are 5 of them presented on this disc. So, some of the guests are Sammy Davis Jr., because he loves Sammy Davis Jr., Robin Williams, Marla Gibbs, Rip Taylor, John Ritter, Willie Nelson, Ray Parker Jr., Kim Fields, Lily Tomlin. This is amazing stuff. These are from 1984. Disc 4 of this set is the complete film JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling. So it's art imitating life. This is, I think, 6 years after Richard Pryor set himself on fire. I mean, this is where it's genuine tragedy, because he was a drug addict, he was an alcoholic. I mean, there's so many things that the tragic, the childhood of abuse, all the stuff, it flows throughout his entire life. So here it is, the mid-'80s, and he's got a movie about a comedian that sets himself on fire and then revisits the path to how he got there and looks at past childhood traumas and relationships. It's art imitating life. It really is. It's Richard Pryor being reflective and looking at who he is. And this is where things get kind of complicated, because between disc 4 and disc 5, about a decade passes, and Richard Pryor developed multiple sclerosis, so he's wheelchair bound, more or less. So disc 5, Last Stand Up Sitting Down. And I was like, well, what is this? I don't know what this is. It's about 20 minutes, a little bit more, 23 minutes or so, of Richard Pryor doing comedy in the 90s, like at the Comedy Store, sitting in a chair. He can't talk very well. He can barely speak, but he's doing stand-up from a chair on stage. Introduction by Jennifer Lee Pryor. It's so good stuff, you guys. That disc also has Richard Pryor Loved on the Sunset Strip, a little flip on Live on the Sunset Strip. An American Cinematheque tribute. Now, this is comedians at the Comedy Store in the mid-'90s paying tribute to Richard Pryor. So, a lot of celebrities, comedians, people like that, just getting up, talking. It's about an hour. Richard Pryor, I Ain't Dead Yet see, all this stuff comes from so many different sources, and it's getting, in a lot of cases, it's getting a disc debut in this set. I think that was the Comedy Central special. I think it originally aired on Comedy Central 2003. And it's a tribute. It's sort of a documentary tributing Richard Pryor. Another interview with Jennifer Lee Pryor. Disc 6, this is our final disc of Volume 2. Richard Pryor, Omit the Logic. It's a documentary about Richard Pryor, it's a 2013 documentary looking at who he was, what motivated him, trying to unravel the unravelable, trying to find out what motivated him, trying to mess with the duality, to get in there and figure out what made him tick, which is, I don't know that it's possible to do that. There are also interviews. Mel Brooks, Whoopi Goldberg, Lily Tomlin, Jennifer Lee Pryor, Willie Nelson, Quincy Jones, David Banks, David Steinberg. And then Volume 3 is the I Am Richard Pryor documentary. It's a 2019 documentary, and it has maybe the best documentary that's been done, because it has the most perspective as we look back on who he was. Maybe we understand a little bit more now about who he was. Maybe. But again, such a study in contrast, and he was so open about everything, and everything was rife for material for comedy. So this is it's monumental. I know there have been box sets for Richard Pryor. I know there have been comedy, CD box sets of some of his stuff. I know there's a box set with the stand-up specials themselves, but I can't think of anything remotely close to touching the depth. I'm telling you, those TV appearances just themselves show so much of the process. He's unrecognizable. I mean, it's like a whole other person. The way he talks, I'm I don't even know how I would convey it to you, but he's just, he speaks differently in the 60s than he would he speaks differently in the 70s. It's like it was a choice to lean into this, to become less of a product and become more of who he was, to take charge of who he was. So for the comedy enthusiast, for those that want to study comedy, but again, it's not just comedy, because there's a lot of tragedy here too. There's a lot of really deep, frankly, really upsetting material. But it all feeds into who this man was and why we still revere him, you know, all these years later. You know, he's been gone for a while now. I'm getting emotional. So the Ultimate Richard Pryor Uncensored is available now from Time Life, and it's really, really outstanding stuff. So guys, let me know if you're going to grab this. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video to that Time Life listing, and you can click through and you can order it there. But clearly, I think very highly of this box set. Guys, thank you so much. Take care. Until next time, I will catch you later.